I'll tell you what. I'll talk about working out. Working out while living a lifestyle that involves a lot of fasting. How about that? When I first started fasting and working out, there was something that I was running into a lot. Kind of like a wall. It's like a wall of almost dying from passing out. What would happen is I'd be in a basketball court just hooping by myself for like excess of an hour. And by the time I would get done, I would be borderline about to pass out lightheaded, which is not something I normally experience if I'm like fully well fed. I don't know how to say that. Normally, I would start out by just shooting around casually, and as the minutes would progress, I would start moving faster and faster and faster to the point that I would be getting my heart rate up to like 160 and above. So I'm here to tell you, at least for me, personally speaking, me hiking up my heart rate past the 160s for close to an hour, a recipe for falling out. If and when in a fasted state, or if I had been in a, at the then time, more like a caloric restriction phase of a fast, such that my glycogen stores would be lower, then I was and still am more likely to just want to pass out, basically, if I go at it too much. The solution I found is that if I want to go hard, it's fine. I just gotta be quote well fed. And when I say well fed, I mean I gotta have my glycogen stores as filled up as much as possible, basically, and then I can go. Not a problem. Now I have other personal reasons for why I'm not really just kind of going. Like for example, one thing that I did throughout my the weight loss was just basketball, just shooting hoops. But I started to get good enough that it started to become addicting to just like keep making another hoop and another hoop. And then I started kind of like overdoing it a bit, and then like one of my knees started to feel weird. You're only as strong as your weakest link, so I pulled back heavily over the last few months from just shooting around. That way I could kind of give my knees a rest, and oh my god, it feels so much better. But yeah, like I said, I personally would not do some like heavy heart rate intensive activity when my glycogen stores are low or like deep in a fast. The thing is, I've done it, and what will happen is maybe not during the workout, maybe not 5 or 10 minutes after it's done, but once I get in the car and I drive home, a few minutes after I get home, I'll stand up from the car and it's like the Milky Way. I'm telling you, nothing but stars in my vision. Now that touches more on the cardiovascular type of workout. Now the more anaerobic type of workout, pressing, lifting weights, that kind of deal. This is what I've found to work so far, because I was also pushing that a bit too much initially. Over the last few months, I've been doing a workout exactly every 2 days. And I've been consistent maybe like 95% of the time. The 5% I have not been consistent with that schedule, most of the inconsistency has come from me having to pull back due to me slowly racking up like some overuse, like aches and pains. Heck, I was ignoring the aches and pains, but then they would get worse and worse and worse to the point that I'm like, oh my god, I can keep ignoring this. I can keep he-manning the fuck out of this shit, but like, there's the body's telling me, yo, you might want to step back, and thus I have. It is a thing that I'm still working on. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little mentally difficult to like not be broken, but you can sense that you're just a few workouts away from it happening. But it hasn't happened, so it's like, is it my imagination? It's like, maybe it is, but what if it isn't? What if it's real? And I'm over here ignoring the one cue that could keep me working out longer if I just kind of pull back a little bit, right? What a conundrum, man. But anyways, what I mostly do now these days is basic. Once again, I'm going to repeat this part. I work out almost exactly every 2 days. I keep it down to some pushing, some actual kind of pulling, and some kind of leg exercise. The pushing is, for me, it's pretty straightforward. Like 95% of the time, it's just push-ups. Maybe a 5 other% of the time is some kind of weighted something. And by something, I mean dumbbells. About the only time that I switch to like weighted, like, dumbbells is usually when the push-ups have been racking up just enough kind of like a overused aches and pains. Then I'll switch it up to like super light dumbbells for like some flies or something, just so I can keep doing something and not stagnate into like weakness. For pulling, as of right now, it's mostly chin ups, pull ups, and like mixing the grip, going really wide, going super narrow, mixing it up, doing like the little ball thing. For that, so far for pulling, I do that about 80% of the time. 20% of the time, I'll switch it to just curls, or maybe like a seated row machine. And the 20% of the time that I switch it up, it's once again the aches and the pains will start to get loud. I'm like, man, I've, I've torn myself a few times already. Is it really necessary to do it again? Now for legs, I have more variety. So some of the things that I do recently is simply body weight squats. I'll do like a full range body weight squat. I may do like little, I'll call them half-ass squats. They're not half-ass. It's more like I'll stick to a very narrow range of motion. Like I may just like bounce up and down, like from the ass to grass up to like halfway up, back to ass to grass, halfway up, and I may do that. Or I may go like halfway up to like fully extended, halfway up to fully extended, and I might mix that up. Sometimes what I do is I'll go to the gym and I'll get a Bosu ball and I'll put the hard side up so that the soft side is at the bottom. And I'll do some squats on that. Okay. Now, some other times what I'll do is I'll put one leg right in the middle of the Bosu ball, the hard side, and I'll do some single leg Romanian deadlifts with a kettlebell or a dumbbell. For the most part, a kettlebell. Not only am I getting some activation for my legs and whatnot, but the fact that I'm doing this shit on one leg, man, I'm getting all kinds of stabilization and core gains. The one thing all of those things have in common is that I try to keep my effort to about 60 to 70%. What I mean by that is by the end of any one body part group, or that's such a weird way to say it. Like, let's say I'm doing 10 sets of 10 push-ups for a total of 100, right? I like to keep it so that, in theory, by the time I've hit that 100th push-up, I probably have another 40 to 50 more to go before I'm like really done, I guess. So I like trying to get in a rep range that I feel it, I definitely feel it, but that I know deep down I got some more in the tank. This is something that's been really, really tricky for me to do because for most of my life, the way I believed to work out was to always go to failure. Not no 70%, 150,000%. If you're able to do that consistently and not injure yourself, good for you. I mean it. But all I know is that my body breaks down first before my mind when it comes to working out. So if I know that, I just find it stupid as fuck and silly for me to think, oh, this next time it isn't going to happen when it clearly has already happened way too many times. And I'm only 28. So at least I got a early head start to like watch the fuck out. This is the one body I got, you know? There's two things that happen for me, just kind of keeping things at about 70 to 80 at most, right? For one, it's keeping injuries away a lot. But two, I've been able to get so much more consistency in than I've ever done before. And in a turn of event, I've noticed that in the consistent me just doing the same stuff, despite the fact that I'm rarely sore these days, I've actually been growing. And it's like, oh, duh. What's the one piece of advice that's always touted out there? Consistency. No shit. Oh my God, you gotta be shitting me. For me personally, the one catch about keeping it to about 70 to 80% at most effort is that can sometimes feel boring. And the thing is, if I start to feel bored working out, there is just a sense of why the fuck am I doing this to begin with? So one thing that I like to do that still keeps me at that 70%, but in a way that it feels more effortful. I like to make the any one given movement just that little bit trickier, and hence why I like implementing a lot of Bosu ball work. AKA, this is partially why I like to like single-legged Romanian deadlifts with one leg or the Bosu ball. I'm still getting in that 70%, but it mentally, because I have to concentrate so much more, it feels like it's more. So on the body, physically, it's like, okay, the body can handle it, but mentally, I'm like, man, I gotta really focus. Because all it takes is 1 second of me not focusing, and I fall right off that ball. And anyways, with all that being said, I found that me just working out every 2 days, full body, at around 70%, I'm able to get my gains, the ones that I'm desiring, and not feel like I'm gonna pass out. The times I do feel like I'm gonna pass out is when I push it way past 70, and I'm not fully fueled up. And so that is one of the things that took me a while to become more in tune with my body, knowing at what stage of a given fast or just like or what I'll call a fasting cycle. Getting more in tune with knowing how much I can push it on any given day, at any given time, at a given stress level, at a given all kinds of these variables along these lines. And I've noticed that the more that I listen to my body and I only keep it within the parameters that I intuitively feel, hey, I can sustain that. The moment I pass through those stress thresholds, more often than not, I start to get lightheaded. When I keep it right at that level or just slightly underneath, it's perfect. The Goldilocks zone, the sweet spot. When I taper off too hard, it's too boring. Nothing gets done. It's all about that sweet spot. Or at least it's been for me. Anyways, that's about it. I've been brunch, you've been brunch, and this has been, oh man, this is not too crazy with this one, but damn, this is delicious as hell. Anyways, if you gained something out of this, please let me know. Do one of these, subscribe, help me out. Like, hey, if you help me out, I'm helping you out. I appreciate it. Thank you.